For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. According to a press release, more than one-third of Minnesotans feel that they are behind schedule in saving for retirement, and many wish they had more money set aside. At a state capitol press conference, lawmakers and advocates gathered to highlight proposed legislation that would address Minnesotans' lack of adequate retirement savings. Here's that press conference.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Sandy Pappas, and I want to thank you for coming today. I'm here as the author of originally the Women's Economic Security Act a couple years ago, in which we started this journey on a retirement program and plan for low-wage workers. And I have with me Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, who's the House author of Senate File 2303, and I'm afraid I don't know the House number.
House File 2570.
2570, great. So we're here to discuss the growing retirement savings gap in Minnesota and the need for the state to provide alternative approaches for saving. I also have joining me three individuals besides Senator Becker-Finn, Representative Becker-Finn, I'll get it straight. And we're going to hear from Elias Starkweather, who is a worker without access to a plan, from Andy Papacosta, my fellow Greek, who is here to speak to the challenges small businesses face, and John Pratt, who represents small nonprofits across the state who struggle to find good plans for their employees to invest in. I wanted to start out with a little personal story about my Aunt Rose. Now, my Aunt Rose is 87. She's still living on her own, but she's outlived her husband, his pension, their savings, and her assets. Her Social Security, which is all she has left, is $1,200 a month. Rent on the private market is $900. That leaves her $300 a month. Luckily, I was able to find on the private market cheaper housing for her, and her children are helping. But really, if she had had a private savings plan that even gave her $200 or $300 a month, that would be her food budget. Retirement savings is a critical issue for Minnesota. By 2030, retirees will represent 1/5 of our state's population. Their financial stability will be the key to our state's success, and as of right now, the savings trends are pointing in the wrong direction. That means that in order to protect the future of our state tomorrow, we need to start preparing yesterday. Unfortunately, people closest to retirement haven't saved enough, in part because they lack access to a reliable savings plan. According to a recent AARP survey, 55% of Minnesota workers surveyed reported that they had not saved enough for retirement, and 36% report they're behind on their retirement savings. Studies have shown that the average near-retirement worker has only saved between $3,000 and $12,000. This is a crisis our state must get a hold of. The demographic changes alone will stress our state's social safety net, but the demographics combined with a generation of seniors without adequate private savings who are living longer could be devastating. The fact is, people aren't saving enough, in large part because they don't have reliable savings offerings. 40% of Minnesota workers don't have access to a retirement savings plan at their place of work. And without a workplace plan, people are much less likely to save because the plans they have access to as individuals are not smart investments. They're loaded with fees and penalties. So workers don't invest, and they get closer and closer to retirement, and they don't have time to make up the gap. This isn't just older workers. This is younger workers, too. In the new gig economy, more people are freelancers, consultants, and teleworkers. They don't work in traditional sectors. They are self-employed or small business owners, and they don't have access to the traditional savings tools they need to invest in their own secure financial future. So what do? People need new options when it comes to retirement savings, and the state can provide them, just like the states of Illinois, Oregon, California, Maryland, New Jersey, and Washington. The Minnesota Secure Choice Act would create a public-private partnership model that allows workers without an employer-sponsored plan to save for their retirement. It would leverage a large pool of investment assets under the professional management of the State Board of Investment, thereby allowing for lower fees, greater access to financial products for small employers, and better interest rates. The SBI has averaged over the last 25 years an interest rate of 8 and 8.5%. And it would make it easier for employees by allowing them to save through automatic payroll deductions with an opt-out, with plans that are portable that can stay with them when they move from job to job. There would be no risk to the state. Fees are paid by the participants, and the state's not responsible for a person's gains and losses in the markets. This is very similar to the College 529 plan that our state facilitates today. This is a straightforward, bipartisan approach that helps get more Minnesota workers savings for their own retirement. We can either help people save today, or we can pay for them through Medicaid and other public programs when their retirement savings run out. I'd like to now introduce Representative Becker-Finn.
Good morning. I'm Representative Jamie Becker-Finn. I'm relatively new here, so I always have to start with that. I'm excited to be part of this innovative legislation that will really benefit many Minnesotans. And I wanted to start by sharing my own story. So my husband and I are in our mid-30s, and like many Minnesotans, that means we have monthly student loan payments. We also have young children, so we have monthly daycare bills. And my husband works in the mental health field, and that means that he's worked at, over the past 10 years, he's worked at several different small nonprofits. And the reality is that he doesn't have enough saved, which means we don't have enough saved for retirement. And partially that's because he hasn't had access to an easy plan. The one employer that he had in the past that offered a plan, I'm almost embarrassed to share, the fees are more every quarter than what the plan is earning, and we just haven't gotten around to figuring out where would be a better place for that to be. And so if he had access to a portable, affordable way to save that could have followed him from job to job, I have no doubt that we would have taken advantage of that. And every year around this time of year, as we're doing our taxes, we start to look at our finances, and every year we say to ourselves, we really need to find an IRA or something, because I work in the public sector, and I've been lucky enough to work for the county, and so that's something that automatically happens, and isn't something, saving for retirement is not something that's automatically happened for my husband. And every year we say to ourselves, we're going to research it and figure it out, and the truth is we never do. It would be a lot simpler if this had been set up ahead of time. And I think that's the reality for many families like ours. And this is the reality for a lot of nonprofits and small businesses as well. Small employers not only can't save for themselves, they can't help their employees save. And that puts them at a competitive disadvantage in an ever smaller workforce market. This approach of the Secure Choice Retirement Act would help workers, small businesses, and the state. It encourages personal responsibility, and it's the type of bipartisan problem solving that the people of Minnesota want our legislature to be focusing on. Just looking at some numbers in the recent AARP poll, 89% of people say they want the state to create a new savings plan for those without a workplace option, and 79% say that they would invest in it. This is also an equity issue. While the retirement savings crisis for Minnesotans is a crisis for all Minnesotans, the gap is even wider for people of color, and we have an opportunity here to address that disparity. The simple reality is that the traditional economic security vehicles retirees, pensions, and 401ks don't exist for a growing number of Minnesota workers. And if we don't want these workers dependent on the social safety security net in the future, we need to give them new ways to save now. And the Secure Choice Plan does that. We know that 1 million Minnesota workers are not saving what they need for retirement. We have a plan here that 79% of Minnesotans, of workers, say they'd invest in. So this is really an incredible opportunity for us to help workers, families, and small businesses and nonprofits, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Okay, next I would like to introduce Leah Starkweather, who is going to tell her story.
Hello, my name is Elia Starkweather, and I am a janitor at downtown Minneapolis, and I am a proud member of SAIU Local 26. I live in Hopkins with my family. With my union, we want wage increases, benefits to help support our families. While we clean the buildings, the houses of some of the richest corporations in the world. But I'm still worried about retirement. I know we are so many families like mine who work very hard but we don't have access to get any retirement. And we cleaning every single night. It is a hard work to do every single night, but we don't have to work. I'm worried about to have to work until I'm die. I worry I won't have enough to retire when I reach that age. I hope the state can help with a program to help families save for retirement. Like it will mean so much to so many families like mine. Because we work right now every single day. We work really, really hard to cleaning all the big buildings in downtown Minneapolis, but we don't have any group or any something to saving money for our retirement. And when I'm reached that age, maybe we don't have none because the laws are changed every single day, and I'm scared about it because we don't have anything, like none, and we live like day by day. Even if we get a little increased money in our pay, we don't have enough to live. Sometimes we have to choose until fruits, vegetables, and pay rent, pay bills, and that is really hard for us. I really hope that the state help us to get us something for we can have some money when I am retired. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have joining us Senator Chris Eden. I want to thank her for being here. She's one of the co-authors on the bill. Next, we have a small business owner, Andy Papacosta.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'm general manager with Gandhi Mahal Restaurant, and I'm also on the Main Street Alliance Advisory Board. As a small business in South Minneapolis, Gandhi Mahal really looks at our employees as family. And that being said, we look out for their well-being. But as a business, we also look at the bottom line. And this Secure Choice Act would really impact that bottom line positively, both in the sense of retention, so lessening turnover, and productivity. I think the implementation of this act would really be positive in that it would make it easier for businesses, creating just a line item on the payroll for the payroll people to make, and for the employees. They probably wouldn't even notice whatever amounts being taken out on that paycheck each week. And that way they'd be saving money. And I think as individuals and as a small business, sometimes we get a little overwhelmed by everything coming in, and it's just one more thing that we have to do. And being a small business, it's hard to find any solution to retirement because we're not really appealing to different brokers or anything for retirement accounts. So again, I really think that by streamlining this, making it available to any size business, available to employees, would benefit us as a community as a whole on every level. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator, can I have you just back up a second? Can you get the gentleman to introduce his name again?
His name is Andy Papacosta. And I think I have it Papacosta.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, John Pratt from the Council of Nonprofits.
Good morning. The Minnesota Council of Nonprofits is an association of 2,000 charitable organizations in the state. And one of the key issues with retirement savings is firm size. Many of our members are small. Actually, 60% of our members have budgets below $600,000 a year. We do an annual salary and benefit survey that looks at what services or salaries do nonprofits pay, and also what benefits do they provide. 55% of our members have budgets below $600,000, as I said. In terms of 403B retirement plans, most of these organizations, the small organizations below $400,000, do not provide retirement savings. And it's a paperwork burden. Usually the key variable is, do you have enough staff to have a full-time HR director? And that's usually at about 30 staff. So it turns out large numbers of organizations have no retirement provisions or pre-tax options for their employees. So the Council of Nonprofits supports this legislation as a way to sort of relieve some of the paperwork burden, make it easier for these organizations to participate. This morning there was also a story in the public radio about seniors now being the largest, fastest growing homeless population and churches in the Moorhead area working on this issue. This is part of what we're trying to prevent, is to make sure that employees across the entire economy, including nonprofit employees, have access to retirement savings. There's an interesting history with nonprofit employees that they were the last ones included in the Social Security system. So they were sort of not allowed in at the beginning. It wasn't until 1983 that nonprofit employers were required to contribute Social Security savings. So we are in catch-up mode for many employees. We want to make sure in the future that there's adequate retirement savings for these employees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. I didn't know that about nonprofits. So any questions from anyone? Doug?
Are you concerned at all? We have seen the private sector drop pensions, now not participating in 401k programs. Are you concerned at all that the unintended consequence of this will be one more excuse for the private sector to kind of, I would say, drop the ball on this issue? They've created the problem, it appears.
Well, we do have a provision in the legislation that you cannot join the Secure Choice program if you already have a pension plan in place, and you'd have to drop your plan for 2 years before you could join. So there is that, you know, as we try to counter that incentive. But I think it is, I think that I think it's also okay for private employers to join this plan. I mean, we have two options here. You can have a more traditional IRA, which is savings by the employee, but we also have what's called the multiple employer plan, where that's an ERISA plan, where employers could also contribute to the plan. But what we're just trying to do is provide a system where it's clear, where the paperwork is easy to do, and at the minimal, you just have to do the deduction, the auto deduction, like you do for Social Security and you do for workers' comp, and provide your employee with information about, you know, the option of doing the plan. The investment is by the State Board of Investment. As I mentioned earlier, they've gotten a very decent interest rate back because they have so much money that they can invest. And so we're really not trying to compete with the private sector, with large companies that offer their retirement offerings. That may be perfectly fine. People who feel comfortable investing in the stock market, they feel perfectly fine. But for these small, low-wage workers and these small businesses, it's really not even worthwhile for the private sector because they can't get enough out of it because the fees would be such a disincentive that, you know, like Jamie said, it's very confusing and discouraging if all your interest is going to fees for a large number of years. Why don't we take your question? Doug, follow up? Okay.
Just, you mentioned how many people are now self-employed. Would they be able to participate as a one-person shop working out of the basement?
That's a really good question.
I forgot.
Yeah, we want to structure the legislation so that they would, yes.
Yeah. You know, this is still a evolving plan, but I do think that that's worth looking at, whether a, you know, kind of a one-person shop, as you mentioned, would be able to participate.
My question was kind of aligned with Doug's in that since the recession, so many people have moved on to freelance roles,
right,
where they just go from, you know, client to client to client to client to client. So how does this work for them when they don't have really a steady paycheck? You know, 1 month they might get a nice paycheck from a client, and then they might not get another paycheck for another 5 weeks until they line up that next client. So how does this work for them?
Well, you really bring up a good question, and the proposal is to have a board that would look at those options and would structure those opportunities. But as I mentioned, you're right, there's the gig economy where people are consultants and their paychecks may be irregular. So we have to have enough flexibility, which kind of current programs don't offer, so that we can address that.
And my other question was, for small employers, and again, kind of working on those who might be doing a networking kind of business, and you've got 4 or 5 other freelancers that you're working with, okay, and you pool your talent for a specific client. this does not require that person to then make an employer contribution, is that correct?
If you participate in the IRA proposal, secure choice, it does not, the employer is not allowed to participate. In order to have employer participation, you have to have an ERISA-approved plan, and we do provide that option in the legislation. But it would be up to the business to choose which approach they want to take.
And that's part of what I think you hope your incentive is for small employers to get into this game, is that they wouldn't necessarily have to contribute to it, but they're just creating the resource for their employees.
Right.
To save.
Contribute the opportunity for their employers through an auto enroll with an escalator to begin to start saving for retirement. And for an employer that's becomes more comfortable with that, they could decide to offer the other plan where they can contribute to.
Senator, I think I saw in your initial release that there are Republicans participating as co-authors on this.
Yes.
Where do you have a sense of how is the GOP looking at this from your perspective as another big government thing, or is this as are they saying no? This is accountability, personal accountability. Are you getting any sense of that?
Well, I would argue it's a personal accountability. I think that there are some concerns from the financial services sector, and we're happy to talk with them about that they have products that they available, but why are businesses not taking advantage of those products? That's a really unanswered question. They have not been, maybe because that it's not really worthwhile for them to offer to these low-wage workers and these small businesses. I would like to see this as a public-private partnership. There's groups out there that are comfortable with administrating IRA-type plans like MSRS. Minnesota State Retirement Association does that for deferred comp plans and other IRA plans. MnSCU has IRA plans that they work with the private sector. I think it's TIAA-CREF that administers that plan. So there's plenty of private, why reinvent the wheel? They're already out there. We don't want to create a big government infrastructure. It doesn't make sense to do that. We do have some Republicans who are interested. They understand the problem that people are not saving enough for retirement. I think we have, a bipartisan consensus on that. Anybody else have any questions? Well, then, thank you very much. The Pension Commission is going to have a meet and greet tomorrow with Angela Antonelli, who's coming in to speak at a MinPost panel on Friday morning. I'll give a little plug for it. It's going to be at the History Center. I think you have to register for it, but maybe they still have room. And it's a breakfast meeting with some financial services experts, including Angela, who's the director of the retirement program at Georgetown University. So there is a lot of interest, as I mentioned, across the country and other states who have been exploring this as well. So thank you all very much.